Aloha, good afternoon, everyone. It is Tuesday, May 27, 2025, and the time is 1:04 p.m. Will the Committee on Housing, Sustainability, Economy, and Health meeting please come to order? Welcome, Committee Vice Chair Cordero, Councilmembers Toba, Tupola, and I believe Councilmember Santos Tam is on his way. Pursuant to Hawaii Revised Statute Section 92-3.7, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda in two ways: in person in the council chamber and remotely. Remote and in-person oral testimony will be allowed when each agenda item is taken up. Before testifying, each person shall state their name for the record and will be limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. As both English and Hawaiian are official languages of the state of Hawaii, pursuant to Article 15, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution and Section 1-3 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, members of the public may testify in either language. For oral testimonies offered in Olelo, Hawaii, additional time as may be necessary will be allowed for the testifier to provide an English translation of their testimony if they so wish. All persons who have registered to testify in person will be called upon first. When your name is called, please come up to the testifier podium. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to testify following the registered testifiers. Also, I'd like to welcome Councilmember Dos Santos Tam to the chamber. After in-person testimony has concluded, I will proceed to remote testimony via video conference or phone. When I call your name, please monitor your screen and follow the prompt to unmute. For those who are joining us by telephone only, please press *9 if you wish to testify, and I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, please listen for the prompt to unmute and press *6. Hawaii Revised Statute Section 92-3.7 requires that all votes at a remote meeting be conducted by roll call unless unanimous. Therefore, I will first call for objections, and if there are any when I call, then I will call for a roll call vote. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off or silence all cell phones for the duration of this meeting. And then that brings us to the sole item on today's agenda, informational briefing. It'll be the Department of Environmental Services providing an overview on the city's current and future waste management practices. We did distribute a copy of the department's presentation. It's also available online as Departmental Communication 395, TC 395. I believe we have Director Babcock queuing up the presentations right now. Members, before we move on, we'll go ahead and go on to take public testimony. We'll first go to in-person testimony in the council chamber. I believe we have registered testifier Angela Young. Ms. Young, did you want to go ahead and testify? And then anyone else in the chamber can make their way up if they wanted to testify. We're going to do testimony now. Yeah, it's on waste management. And the presentation that's filed talks about H-Power, talks about recycling, has some updates on the landfill. So if you have any thoughts on that within the time frame allotted, go ahead and share.
Okay, sure. I was very busy. I didn't get to go on vacation just yet, so I haven't reviewed the presentation. So I will just testify to say that the operations for recycling is very much needed, and then also cooperation from the state legislature because the plan was blocked. And then so now with, I think what it's gonna have to resort to is the Plan C. I heard, and I hope I'm only saying accurate things, that they're gonna have to ask the Land Use Commission for a special use permit to extend that special use permit. And so working with beyond the counties, for example, with the partnerships with the schools, the nonprofits, they're doing sustainability, cleanups, surf rider, bottles for college, those things are really going to help with diversion of trash into those facilities. So it should be something that the council seeks to learn about, and it's something I'm very active in. Thank you.
Mahalo, Ms. Young. See no questions for the testifier. Thank you for that, and definitely agree as we look to better manage our waste. See no one else in person wanting to testify. We'll go online with no registered testifiers and also no unregistered testifiers online. We'll go ahead and close testimony, and I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Babcock, for the presentation.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Chair Wire and council members. Roger Babcock, Director, Department of Environmental Services. Happy to make a presentation update on what's going on with our refuse division with respect to all of our programs. So thank you for the opportunity to do that, and be happy to answer questions along the way as they come up. Okay, so first I have presenting just, kind of a really brief overview of the solid waste aspects of ENV. We do almost entirely curbside collection from single-family residents. So there's 190,000 residents, and there are a few businesses, and there are a few multifamily residents, but almost all is single-family residents with the 3-cart system: the gray cart, the green cart, and the blue cart. And I just put a little note there, and I'll say more about this in a little bit, but we will be also collecting food waste curbside from residents beginning next April. And just to paint the whole picture, we do the curbside collection. We have 7 convenience centers, and I'll say more about those. And some people would say that they are not just convenience centers, but they're very, very convenient centers because they're open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day except for Christmas and New Year's. So, and it's free, of course. Other places, these aren't free, and they aren't open as much time as this. We also have 3 transfer stations, which people can also take their rubbish to. We have extensive recycling program. We also have H-Power, our waste energy facility, which produces about 70 megawatts of power, excess power that's sold to Hawaiian Electric. There are 3 different boilers, and I'll talk about the future as well. They're called boilers because in waste to energy, that distinguishes it from an incinerator. An incinerator just burns things and creates ash, but a waste energy has a boiler, and so it's used, the heat of the fire is used to boil water, create steam, and then generate electricity. Also talk about construction and demolition waste a little bit. That all currently goes to the PVT landfill out in Nanakuli, which is going to run out of capacity in 5 to 7 years. And I'll also touch on landfill siting. Okay, so the next slide shows a map of our island, and it kind of shows where our facilities are. So we do have collection yards located around the island. So we have trucks that are staged there and personnel who report to those locations and do their collection routes. We do have, as I mentioned, the 7 convenience centers and the 3 transfer stations, which are the red stars. The collection yards are the green circles. And then the landfill is shown there, the Waimanalo Goat Sanitary Landfill out in near Ko'olina. Okay, so the next slide goes into, that doesn't seem correct. Let me see here. Okay, so it's missing several slides here, so I guess we'll go from let me just make sure, let's see if, seems like the slide deck is missing, okay, wait, is missing some of the slides. So
we do have copies, just so you know, Director, distributed to all the council members, and then is
Right.
also available online publicly, so I'll defer to you on
Okay,
if you wanna-
thank you.
yeah.
Sorry about that, I'm not sure what happened. So I'll kind of go through the handout then. So a little bit more information about the convenience centers. Again, the locations are listed here. So we have one Waimanalo, Waianae, Waipahu, Eva Beach, Kapolei, Laie, and Wahiawa. The convenience centers are operated by the city. So we own those facilities, we operate them, and we do have a contracted guard service, though, who are there and checking people in and checking their waste loads as they come into the facilities. They are open from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., 7 days a week, closed only on Christmas and New Year's. We do have on our website, you can click on any of those convenience center locations and see a camera, a live streaming camera, to show you that's focused on the line to enter the facility. So you can see whether or not there's a line and decide whether to go to a given convenience center or to go to another one. So the wastes that are accepted are listed here, and I'll read them in a second, but their fees are $0 for all waste that you take to a convenience center. Again, only residents, though, are allowed to go there. So businesses cannot go there. Businesses have to pay to dispose of waste, and they have to go to either a transfer station or to Waimanalo Gulch or to H-Power directly. Okay. The things that are accepted there are trash, bulky items, appliances, tires, lead-acid batteries, propane and helium tanks, green waste, lithium-ion batteries, fire extinguishers. Everything except for hazardous waste essentially is accepted there. And a new thing that is accepted now at all convenience centers for about the last 2 months is e-waste. So all e-waste is accepted at the convenience centers. There's a separate bin for e-waste. The next slide shows transfer stations and the landfill. So at the transfer stations, there are 3 of them. Kapa'a, which is in Kailua, Kawailoa, which is out in Haleiwa, and Ke'ehi, which is in Honolulu. All of these are also owned and operated by the city. The hours are different for each location. Kapa'a in Kailua is open Monday through Friday 10 to 6, and Saturday and Sunday 7 to 6. Kawailoa out in Haleiwa is open 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily, 7 days a week. Ke'ehi Transfer Station in Honolulu on Middle Street is open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6, and Saturday, 7 to 6. It's the only one that's not open on Sunday. And video cameras, again, are available to look at the line at each of those locations. The waste accepted, again, at no charge, includes most of the same things: trash, bulky items, appliances, tires, lead-acid batteries, propane and helium tanks, green waste, lithium-ion batteries, fire extinguishers, and no hazardous waste. The exception is Ke'ehi, which only accepts trash and bulky items. None of the other items are accepted there. Something that's new there, and I will mention again, is at the Kapa'a Transfer Station in Kailua, we just announced, we had a press conference on Friday, that we will be accepting household construction items there separately in cooperation with Reuse Hawaii and Goodwill Hawaii. That is a program that starts this coming Saturday, and it's a pilot program that was funded by council through resolution, and that is starting, and it will go through November. Depending on how successful it is, we hope to continue that program and perhaps expand it to other places. It will depend on tonnage collected and things like that. The Waimanalo Gulch Sanitary Landfill is located on Farrington Highway in Kapolei. That is owned by the city, but it's operated under contract by Waste Management International Company. The hours of the landfill, again, when residents can go there, is 7 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., Monday through Saturday. It is not open on Sunday. Wastes that are accepted there for free, again, no charge, are only the following: dirt, rock, sand, gravel, concrete, and dead animals. So we accept those things at the landfill, but not rubbish or bulky items or any of the other things, batteries that are accepted at the other facilities.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Babcock. Since you had offered earlier, I'll just pause and ask, does anyone have questions on convenience centers, transfer stations? If not, okay. Okay, point, mahalo.
Okay, so hopefully you agree that they are very convenient centers. So moving on then to the next slide shows composting. So green waste, we have a green waste composting facility. It is owned and operated by a private company, Hawaiian Earth Recycling. It's located on Wilikina Drive in Wahiawa. The hours there when, again, public can go there anytime they want, Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and on Sundays from 8 a.m. to noon. So it is open 7 days, but the hours are not quite as long as the convenience centers, but it's still pretty convenient. Waste accepted, again, at no charge, is green waste. Now, also contractors can also go there and private haulers can go there, but they pay fees for their, to deposit green waste there to be made into compost. And again, I'll allude to it again, but in the future, we will be taking food waste there as well. That facility is currently under construction, being upgraded so that it can take food waste. And so at that point then, by next year, we'll be able to accept food waste and have that all made into compost. And by the way, food waste, and organic waste in the gray cart system that currently goes to H-Power is about 25% of the waste stream going to H-Power. So diverting that into compost will be a very, very good development for the city. The next slide shows recycling, and is titled recycling. And so there's several items on here talking about first the residential collection, the 3 carts. So the green carts, as I mentioned, go to the HER Wahiawa facility, and it's made into compost. So that's what happens to our green waste. Beginning in April of next year, we will be accepting food waste and taking it there as well. Beginning sooner than that, by the end of the year or in January, we'll start a new public information campaign. So we have that all being developed right now through the end of this year. And we'll also be piloting. We probably won't roll out the entire system, the entire island all at once. And that's the way we've done that's the way we did the 3-cart system as well way back when. So we'll be piloting and seeing what we can learn and doing education and getting that program running and trying to get high participation. Later, also in the new contract for that operation, it does include manufactured compostable materials. So these are food packaging generally that are compostable. And that is in a separate phase, and the reason for that is that the contractor, there are challenges to get a permit to accept those materials, and so we're still working on that with the Department of Health. But the permit to accept food waste is in place. So, but that is an important thing. That's pizza boxes and cups and other takeout containers and stuff can all be, much of it can be composted, but we still have to wait a little bit longer for that. The blue carts go to RRR Recycling, and all that material is separated and hand sorted and recycled as a commodity on the mainland. It's important to note that the green carts and the blue cart materials do not go to H-Power. Okay, everything is recycled. There is, of course, waste, contamination that enters into those 2 carts, and those contractors do separate that material, and then that contamination does generally go to H-Power, but not the recyclable materials. E-waste, as I mentioned before, is all recycled now, and it goes to the mainland. So there's a contractor that has that contract. They collect all the waste, and as opposed to many other types of recycling, we don't pay anything. We actually get paid for our something for our e-waste. The next one is the Reuse Hawaii and Goodwill pilot at Kapa'a Transfer Station. Again, it's starting May 31st on Saturday. It will be open on, I can't remember if it's Saturday and Sunday, or I believe it's Saturday and Sunday each week. not during the week, but on the weekends. They'll accept household items in good condition, deconstruction materials. Those are the things that Reuse Hawaii specializes in. They have a new location, which is in the Salt Lake Shopping Center, across from the stadium. And it's 50,000 square feet, I think, warehouse full of construction materials and small appliances and all kinds of things like that. And so anything that folks bring in that is in usable condition will be evaluated by somebody that's there. There's a container there. And so they'll take anything that they think can be resold, and they will, and you can donate that. And same with Goodwill. So Goodwill will be there also, so you can drop off items for Goodwill. So Goodwill, what they said at the press conference was, then this is kind of a one-stop shop, so you can bring stuff, and then you don't need to also then go to Goodwill afterwards. You can just leave everything there. So there'll be two things being collected there, and there'll be people there to decide whether it should go in the rubbish or it should be can be pulled out and sold. We also, the other thing that's important is white goods. So all white goods are appliances like refrigerators, stoves, ovens, washers, dryers, and dishwashers, all that kind of stuff. Those are all white goods, even though they're not all white. Some are stainless steel and some are different colors. But those are called white goods, and air conditioners also. These are all deconstructed by a contractor, drained of fluids, and then metal, and then the metals all get recycled on the mainland. So that's a contractor as well. All other metals also there's a metals contractor who recycles all other metals on the mainland. So that includes ferrous metals, non-ferrous metals, etc. And so we have a contract for that. Cars, we don't do this ourselves, but there is a contractor that takes all cars, shreds them, they recycle the metals, and the auto shredder residue, ASR, which is what's left, currently goes to the landfill. So cars are all recycled here in Hawaii. They're not shipped whole somewhere else for recycling. Tires is another interesting one. So household tires, you're allowed to bring 4 tires to a convenience center as a resident. But if you have a business and you're changing tires or something like that, then you're not allowed to bring that to H-Power. You need to pay to take it to a tire recycler. And again, that's not the city. There is a tire recycler, and you pay per tire to have it recycled if you're a contractor or a business owner that sells tires and recycles tires. So that's kind of an overview of a lot of the recycling programs. If there's any questions on those, Chair?
Definitely. Vice Chair Cordero.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Director Babcock. I just want clarification. You mentioned that the blue bin goes to HER, or does it go to H-Power?
So the blue cart goes to a recycling operation called RRR Recycling. It's a contractor, so we redo that permit, that contract every few years. And they have a sorting operation, right? Because that's mixed recyclables, right? So they sort through everything. There's a hand-picking line, and they separate all the things into different bins, and then they sell those on the open market on the mainland.
Did they contract? When did this contract with? Is it RRR?
Yes,
RRR start? Because didn't blue bins also then go to H-Power prior?
No, I'm not aware of the blue bins going to H-Power ever. That's not the intent. The intent is that it all gets recycled. And the city never did that operation ourselves. It was always contracted.
Okay, understood. Thank you. And my next question is there a limit for tonnage or a certain amount that the city has to provide to the contractor for each of those contracts, whether it be for the green bins or blue bins or other types of contracts that we have?
Yeah, that's a good question. There is a sort of what's called a put or pay clause with respect to H-Power and that operating contract. With the other contracts, they take different forms in terms of the way the fee structure works, and they're. But I'd have to check on the details. Each one is a little bit different in terms of what component is the tipping fee, what component is perhaps a capital recovery part. I know that the composting operation has that because they have to build facilities. So I'll have to say, I don't know for sure all the details on that, but I can find out for you.
Thank you. And then the next question is the contract that we have for recycling cars. Is that the one where they put them into little cubes?
That is the program, but again, that's all private, so we don't. That's actually not a city function. It's directly with that contractor. So it's not a city contract from, at least not from ENV. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Appreciate that. So anytime it says contractor on the slide, does that mean it's a contract with the city?
Yes, let me just make sure here. Well, it says, yeah, except for the cars.
Okay.
Except for cars. And again, with the tires, it's the same thing. That is a private company, and we actually have a contract with that contractor for, AES uses it mostly from DFM, so any city tires that need to be disposed of also go to that contractor. But yeah, so we do have a contract with them. Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate that. Councilmember Tolba.
Thank you, Director. By the way, everyone should try to get out to do toilet trash. A better understanding of why it's so important for us to recycle. My question is about glass, recycling of glass, because I know I travel a lot and there are roads in West Virginia, this line in pavement, but you can see the spark of glass, and how I was talking to one of the contractors out there. They're saying that it makes the roads a lot more strong, lasting. Why haven't we looked into recycling glass yet?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Councilmember. So my understanding is in the past that has been looked at, and other things have been looked at too, particularly in cooperation with the University of Hawaii and the State Department of Transportation. So that's glassfault or glasscrete. So there is some work has been done on that in the past. Currently, we're not doing that. There's also efforts to try putting recycled tires, rubber, and I know HDOT is doing a project like that right now. So we try to keep up with those things. Right now, we don't have any such program as that. It is those things are useful, but so far we don't have an active program with that. We have looked at other ways to recycle our glass that we recover. And there was an RFP a few years ago before this administration where to make a glass foam product out of recycled glass. And when you're on the mainland, you can buy this glass foam in nurseries and stuff, and it's useful as a in potting, in plant potting soil and stuff like that. But my understanding is the proposal came in significantly higher than what they budgeted, so it wasn't pursued at that time. But we continuously try to look at new additional ways to recycle things and keep them out of the landfill.
Thank you.
Were the other options for glass rolled out for any reason, or I'm just curious? Like, for example, you're saying we're not looking at right now incorporating it into construction materials or whatnot. So I was wondering if there was particular reasons, or it's just kind of, we have a lot going on already, I know. So maybe down the line, or.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think we do have some other discussions with UH folks and HDOT about other materials, particularly ash and a processed ash material. It's not ash anymore. It's turned into a sand substitute essentially. So we're looking into that now, and that is really where a lot of the glass ends up, is there. And so, we're definitely interested in pursuing new things. Usually there was something that happened in the past, and so it was kind of shut down at that point. But maybe it's sometimes time to reopen things and take a fresh look.
Mahalo. No? Council.
I'll ask questions at the end.
Oh,
Thank
okay,
you.
okay. Councilmember Dos Santos, then.
Thank you, Chair. With regard to incorporating glass or other materials into the pavement, this might be a better question for DDC or DFM, but are you aware of any issues that make it more complicated after it's incorporated in for that pavement to be further recycled?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So you're right. That is a concern with all recycled, products, and that would be taken into consideration when you do essentially permitting and or doing mixed design. They'll carefully consider that because most asphalt is then recycled into asphalt again. And so things can sort of accumulate in that recycled material. And so you would want to sort of, the industry that's using the material would want to sort of limit these admixtures or things that are added in and substituting for something else to certain limits to make sure that it has strength and it's workable and it's usable and it doesn't cause perhaps a distraction with it being shiny and stuff like that. But yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Perfect. We'll let you continue, Dr. Rabcott.
Okay, thanks. So now it looks like we're back to where the slides are actually being shown. So this is an aerial photograph of the H-Power facilities, and hopefully you can see the numbers there. The original facility is the RDF facility. So sorry, I should go to number one. Number one is the MBN, which stands for Mass Burn Facility. So that's the newest part of H-Power. And I'll show you some pictures to explain what that is in a minute. Number two there is the ash building for the Mass Burn Facility. It's kind of below that too there, and there's trucks coming out of that ash loadout building. Number three in the back, the bigger building, is the RDF facility. That's the original facility. RDF stands for refuse-derived fuel. That means you take the raw waste, raw rubbish, and you process it. You shred it, then you send it through magnets, you send it through a trommel screen, and you make a processed material called refuse-derived fuel that then goes into the boiler. And then the ash building for the RDF plant is back there where it says number 4. And then number 5 is our new facility that we are in the process of designing and potentially building, is called Enhanced Material Recovery Facility, an EMRF, or we also call it HARA, Hawaii Advanced Resource Recovery from Ash Project. So a little bit more about, let's see. It does skip a couple others here. So the slide that you have, though, that you turn to that says H-Power at the top is what I'll do next. So it does stand for Honolulu Program of Waste Energy Recovery. That's what H-Power stands for. It was from 1989. It's an RDF facility. It has a capacity of 2,000 tons a day. But actually for many years, 20 years, it ran at about 2,200 tons per day. So it ran a very high capacity. 2,200 tons per day is essentially the waste stream that we have. Sometimes it's 2,400, sometimes it's 2,000. It varies a little bit, but that's about the right number. It does have 2 processing lines. It has 2 boilers, incinerator boiler, and 1 turbine. And the turbine capacity is 56 megawatts for the RDF facility. Again, it has 2 burners, with water. It's a water wall furnace that makes steam, high temperature, high pressure steam that runs the turbine. The turbine runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, unless the H-Power is out of service. In 2012, the city built the third boiler. It's a mass burn operation, so there's no processing of the waste, and the picture shown on the slide that you guys have on the lower right shows what that looks like. So it's basically a pit, and you pick everything up with a giant grappling claws, and you move it directly into the boiler. So it's called a mass burn facility. There's no pre-processing. It has a capacity of 900 tons per day. There's only one line, one boiler, and one turbine, and the turbine capacity is 32 megawatts. So if you add that up, you get 88 megawatts. A facility like H-Power uses some power itself. That's called parasitic power. But the net output when everything's running is 70 megawatts. So the rest is the power it takes to run the facility. So it uses its own power to run the facility, and it exports all the excess power. Most of the power is excess. It has air pollution control systems. It creates bottom ash from the bottom of the incineration area, and on the air pollution controls generate and capture what's called fly ash. So that's what's coming out the top. The bottom ash comes out the bottom. Those two ashes are combined and processed, and there's metals recovery from the ash. There's also metals recovery at the RDF facility before it goes into the boilers. Let's see, the next slide. So we do have this one here. So this shows the ash processing and recycling facility that is currently in permitting and design. The little diagram here shows that the H-Power waste energy facility, currently all the combined ash goes to the Waimanalo Gulch landfill. There's a 90% reduction in volume from the refuse that went in compared to the ash that comes out and goes to the landfill. There are metals recovery at H-Power for ferrous and non-ferrous metals. Non-ferrous metals, for example, is aluminum. What's shown on the bottom, that's what we do today. What's shown on the bottom is what we're planning. This will have it will take to separate the two ashes, and the bottom ash will be further processed, and the fly ash will be also processed on site, which with a new process, which it's called conditioning, but basically chemicals are added to stabilize the ash, and then it goes to the landfill. Metals and ferrous and non-ferrous metals will still be recovered there. The bottom ash, though, will go to a new facility, which will do processing and create an aggregate material that can be used in asphalt or concrete. There would be some residual, so you don't get 100% recovery, perhaps 60 to 70% recovery into asphalt and concrete. We'll also get more metals, both ferrous and non-ferrous, from that facility. So it does produce the aggregate substitute, and it also produces additional metal for recycling. Okay, so it's a process which consists of grinding and screening, and mostly just grinding and screening. It's kind of like a quarry type operation to make material out of it, and then it does facilitate significant additional metals recovery that's not possible with current ash. Okay, so next slide just shows a picture of Waimanalo Gulch. I know some of you have been there, maybe all of you have been there by now. Councilmember Batolba just mentioned it. When you go to Tour de Trash, you get to see this. This is the top of the landfill. This is showing where the ash goes. And that's what it looks like. The liner system you can see stretched out on both sides, going up the mountain. And so eventually that will be filled in, and that is essentially the top of the landfill. It's a 200-acre site, been in operation since 1989. It is, according to the current permit, needs to close by 2028. The landfill diversion, so of the waste stream, only essentially 18% of the entire waste stream ends up in the landfill. And so, that's by mass. So that means, essentially the ash and the other things that have to go there only constitute 18% of the entire mass of the waste stream. With the ash recovery facility, the diversion will increase to 90% or a little more. The future landfill is 80 to 90 acres, is what we've been looking at, and it would last from 30 to 50 years. Just to illustrate what the ash recovery project would do, there's this little diagram here kind of showing what goes to H-Power. A lot of things go to H-Power. 50 tractor trailer trucks, this is per day. 100 side loader trucks go directly there. 100 other commercial trucks go there. That's from all the commercial and private collection, multifamily, businesses, hotels, everything, that's all commercial haulers. 30 trucks come there from convenience centers. And then we have 10 from nonprofits and 6 others, sludges, wastewater sludges and tires and things like that. What comes out and goes to Waimanalo Gulch landfill is 20 trucks of ash, 10 special waste trucks, and 10 householder trucks on average. So there's not too many householders to go there, but as I mentioned before, you can bring dirt and rock and stuff there. Future, when we have the ash processing in operation, the ash trucks would be reduced from 20 to 8, and then the other numbers remain the same. So that's the benefit of doing the ash recovery, project, displayed kind of graphically.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
So that 90% plus diversion with TAPs, is that considering or not considering the addition of C&D?
Right, it is not considering C&D.
Okay,
It's only considering the current waste stream without C&D.
understood. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so here's an overview looking from H-Power back towards the facility next to it, which is we call that the solar building. It's other buildings as part of the city facilities out at H-Power. What's done out there now is the white goods processing. So we don't do that. We have a contractor on site who does the processing there on our property. There's also Kapolei Convenience Center, which you can't see here really, but I'll show you the next picture. There's also a refuse collection base yard back there. Again, the ash recycling facility is envisioned to be inside of that large building on the right with all the solar panels on top. C&D management possibly in the future. And part of that would be a materials recovery facility associated with C&D management. But those are in the early planning stages. The next slide. Next slide does show a little bit more updated picture, which does show the new Kapolei Convenience Center, which has been in operation for about a year. And I can't remember exactly when it started. The enhanced material recovery facility, the solar building, is there on the left. And on the right where it says future Leeward refuse collection base yard, it actually has been built. And I don't have a more recent picture, but the refuse collection base yard is there. That's a place where there's a building, like a shop, there's and refuse trucks are stored there, and it's a base yard for the drivers in that area. Okay, so this slide is, we're moving on now to landfill. I don't know if there's any questions before we move on to landfill.
Not seen any. We can go ahead and finish.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So so a few slides on new landfill siting, and we've talked about this before, of course, but just a brief brief review of history. The Land Use Commission, which is part of DLNR, the state, issued a decision and order in 2019. It extended the permit. The city had gone in to extend the permit to operate Waimanalo Gulch landfill. The permit was extended to 2028 with the condition that it would expire at that time. And it also said that the city would need to name a new site by January 31st of 2022 and have a new site in operation and no longer accept waste at Waimanalo Gulch by March of 2028. After that, in 2020, the state passed a law called Act 73, which added a half-mile buffer around a waste facility between the waste facility and a residential property line, a hospital, or a school. It also prohibited such facilities on conservation lands. And just to give you an idea, the timeline to do a new landfill involves, selecting a site, doing an EIS process, purchasing the land, constructing the landfill, and then we also need to close the Waimanalo Gulch landfill. So we formed a landfill advisory committee in 2021. Soon after the administration came into office, it operated through June 2022. Early in that process, there was the Red Hill debacle in November, and that did influence our landfill advisory committee's work. Again, the landfill advisory committee was something the city set up and operated in accordance with Sunshine Law and had meetings, lots of meetings, and those were open to the public, and it's all available on the website. But anyway, they in the end they recommended that none of the sites be selected that they were evaluating, and they requested that the city ask for an extension from the LUC and to try to see if there was any military sites available, which had not been considered in the earlier process. So eventually, the Land Use Commission did give a 2-year extension to name the site. That didn't come out until July of 2024, but it gave a deadline, an extension till December 31st of 2024. Along the way, the Navy did deny the city's requests after lots of conversations about the Waipio Peninsula site. So the city, in December of 2024, we did name the site that's northeast of Wahiawa on Dole land. And then since then, the ledge that just finished up passed House Bill 969. And that bill, what it does is it, only for islands with a population greater than 500,000, it prohibits landfills on Class A ag lands and inside of the Department of Health's UIC line, Underground Injection Control Line, and it's effective July 1st of 2025. So the city now, administration, we need to figure out what our next steps are. A little bit more about some of the siting issues. We've seen this figure before. It shows all the different restrictions before the newest legislation, and you can see the different color coding. The half-mile buffer, the tsunami evacuation zone, the airport buffers, the conservation lands, and the developed and lands that have already been zoned for development. And it also shows the military lands in gray. So the lands that were available while we were considering for the Landfill Advisory Committee are the clear or the white colored areas. And those are all in central Oahu. There's potable water underneath there, and they're also on ag A lands. The next slide shows, again, from an earlier evaluation that was done where there were some potential landfill sites evaluated from 2012 through 2016, including some military lands and stuff. But the reason that I'm showing this slide and including it is because it does show the BWS no-pass line, which was what was a contentious issue associated with the Landfill Advisory Committee and with the legislature. They ended up not choosing this line. They chose the UIC line, which I'll show you here in a moment, is much more restrictive actually than this line. The next slide. So this slide shows, the next two slides show the UIC line, and it shows the Ag A lands. So the UIC line is shown there. For me, it's hard to see up there on the screen, but in front of you, hopefully you can see it. It's a thick blue line around the outside fringe of the island. So we did a calculation, and what remains is 15% of the entire land area is outside of that UIC line. It closely follows the coastline, and doesn't prohibit, and it doesn't allow anything in the interior of the island. Just sort of the coastal, some of the coastal areas. You also see that there's some airplanes on there where there's airports which further restrict. For example, Kalaloa, there's no available land there because of the airport restrictions. The next slide shows the ag land restriction. Again, these are part of Bill 969. So here's the ag zone lands in blue. And you see that they also take up some of the land associated, the Ag A lands, some of the lands that are outside the UIC line as well. But much of the interior of the island are these high-class ag lands. So those are the two parts of the state legislation that just passed with respect to restricting landfills. But the restriction only applies to Oahu. So according to the law, it's okay to build landfills on all the other islands. So we may have to look into that. Okay, a couple other things. Just this again is a kind of a review. Landfill protective measures. There are EPA rules and very extensive associated with landfills. So those are associated with what's called 40 CFR Part 258 Code of Federal Regulations from the 70s and 80s. There's a municipal solid waste landfill is called a subcategory D landfill. It does have to have a liner. It's really a two-part liner. It's a synthetic plastic liner plus a clay liner. It has to have leachate collection systems, leachate removal and treatment systems, and groundwater monitoring, and many other things. And so there's some diagrams there kind of showing it, and they're showing people laying the liners at Waimanalo Gulch in the past. Waimanalo Gulch, we do have to monitor leachate quarterly, and there's never been any detection of anything from leachate since 1989. And it's also important to note that leachate is not allowed to accumulate. So a landfill is not a big tank of leachate. You're only allowed to have 12 inches, less than 12 inches of leachate in the very bottom of the landfill at any time. So it's continuously pumped out. And so there isn't really anything accumulating there that could apply pressure to leak out. And we actually did do had a recent flyover done and found there was no fugitive methane emissions from the landfill. And currently, the remaining capacity of our landfill is 2032 within the existing 200-acre footprint that's been approved. The duration hasn't been approved, but the space that's approved, we estimate would be able to serve current waste loads until 2032. So that's about the landfill. I think there's just couple slides, or maybe this might be the last slide, which is about H-Power and just the future of H-Power. As was mentioned before, H-Power did start operations in 1999 as an RDF facility with the 2 boilers with a 2,000 ton per day capacity. It was expanded in 2012 with the 3rd boiler, the mass burn system, with a capacity of 900 tons per day. So the idea there is that any one boiler, more or less, can be out of service, and we can still process the entire waste stream and not have to divert unburned rubbish to the landfill. We export about 70 megawatts of power to Hawaiian Electric, and that is an important part of the city budget. That equates to about $70 million per year. And that is the city's share. The city does share revenue with the operator, with the contract operator. That's an incentive to produce as much power as possible and to keep the facility running as efficiently as possible. The ash goes to the landfill, and we do have the ash project is currently awaiting permit from Department of Health before we finish the design and construct the facility. We won't construct it if we're not able to get a permit to reuse the ash. The RDF facility is aging out. It is quite old now, and it's been repaired and upgraded, and we have some fairly major processing line upgrades going on right now. But it will not last forever. It is, there is only, I believe, one other such facility still in operation. That used to be the main technology, the RDF facilities that were built all over the place. All of them have been decommissioned by now, except for H-Power and possibly one more. So it is it's an old technology, and folks don't build facilities like that anymore. All new facilities generally are mass burn facilities. But there are many other types of technology also available that we are in the process of evaluating. And so we are anticipating that we would issue some sort of request for proposals and be sort of agnostic to the technology and have probably a facility that is owned and operated by someone else. So we're working through that now and developing a 30-year functional plan, as well as a 10-year capital improvement program. And as I mentioned, it does look a little bit out of place here, but the diversion of food waste is really important because you see that 25% there. 25% of the waste load that's currently burned at H-Power could instead go to the compost facility and be turned into compost. And that's talk about circular economy. I mean, that's basically taking our waste and keeping it here and reusing it, as opposed to burning it and turning it into ash and electricity. So, and the other thing about food waste is it's kind of energy neutral. It's wet, so it has water in it, and if you have to boil off the water, that consumes energy as opposed to producing energy like other materials. So that, I believe, is the last slide. I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Dr. Epcock. I know Councilor Tupola was going to have some when she got back. Committee Vice Chair and Floor Leader, did you have some questions?
Yeah, Chair, thank you. Just one relating to the RDF facility. I was wondering if there was plans to phase that out from H-Power. And I guess, are we on that timeline that was constructed or planned?
Yeah, so right now we don't have a firm plan for when that facility would be decommissioned. We need it to run for as long as is necessary to construct something new and have it be ready to go and be able to take an equivalent amount of waste. So that is going to take some time because a selection hasn't been made yet. We need property and an operator, permits of various types, appropriations perhaps, or maybe not. It really depends on the mode of procurement that we decide to do. And so we will keep it running for as long as necessary. Another thing that I didn't mention is that the EPA did issue some draft new regulations associated with emissions from RDF type facilities, which are stricter than the current ones. And they haven't been finalized, but they will dictate perhaps very expensive upgrades to the air pollution control devices for that facility, because those are different than for the mass burn facility. And so we want to try to figure out exactly what we're going to do and avoid making those upgrades. So because those facilities are really being phased out, nationally, and it's going to become more and more expensive to keep them operating. So we're going to try to do our best to get something new in place in time for that, to be able to decommission that.
Thank you. So, Director, you're not looking then for a 101 replacement of the two boilers? Like, would like a fourth, newer, updated type of boiler suffice and be able to hold the same capacity that the two boilers in the RDF hold?
Right, exactly. And And so different options could have different components. They may or may not be, it might not be a mass burn facility. It could be a pyrolysis gasification facility, which does produce a similar amount of energy as H-Power, per ton. Then there are other technologies that don't produce energy. They're more sort of energy neutral, but they also produce less residuals, potentially. So that's the evaluation we're doing now and trying to figure out what's the best. In the end, we may not actually decide that for the industry. We may just put it out and have them submit proposals, and then we'll evaluate whichever one makes the most sense in terms of weighing residuals, cost, and energy production, right? So energy production is kind of part of the costs. And so, just so you know, the H-Power landfill operations combined have a slight net positive cash flow. Meaning those operations, they pay for themselves. The electricity and stuff and tipping fees pay for the operation plus a little more. It doesn't pay for all of the refuse division costs, like collection. It doesn't quite, it doesn't cover that, but it does cover, those operations and other types of technology. The math will change a little bit. So anyway, that's the interesting work that we're working on right now with our 30-year functional plan.
Thank you. Thank you for that information, because I know that there's been a lot of projects that, of course, the department has, and then to then tack on the, as the slide says, future of H-Power, right? So thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Mahalo for that. Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you so much, Chair. Aloha, Director. You have a busy day with us today.
Yes, happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. First off, in very broad terms, how much would it cost for us to site another landfill? Just like maybe one number.
Yeah, so we had budgeted, it depends on the land cost and then the development cost, which of course are related to the location.
Hypothetically, how much?
Yeah, hypothetically, could be $100 million. It could be less than that, depending on the property. If the property costs $25 million or so, and development might cost $10 million. So, or the property could be much more expensive, and it could cost a lot more.
Understood.
Yep.
The only three things that are going into landfill is ASR, sludge, and ash. So the way that we solve this problem is that we don't site a new landfill. We figure out what to do with the three things. ASR actually can go to H-Power. So some years ago, they were told that they had to bring it to the Waimanalo Gulch because it was making the incinerator too hot and whatnot. Why can't 24,000 tons of ASR go to H-Power instead of the landfill, so that we're getting low-hanging fruit out of the way and pretty soon we have nothing left to put in the landfill?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So we are in talks right now with the H-Power operator, which is known as Reworld, formerly Covanta, and we're in the process of discussing the ASR. So they've doing the evaluation, and we're going to be piloting, I think, soon. Some loads of ASR, and then they can monitor, like you say, temperatures and emissions, and make sure that it's okay. Originally, they had talked about it being harder on the boilers, on the tube walls.
Understood.
Because it's more corrosive. But yeah, we're planning to do that. And what they've told us is they don't see they've kind of changed their mind. They think it's okay.
Yeah. I think if we can take out 24,000 tons out of the landfill, that's less space and one step closer to not needing a landfill. My question is the put and play. So I know that if we don't give enough trash to H-Power, that we have to pay a certain amount at the end of the year. Do we always give them enough, or do sometimes we come up short? And if so, how much do we pay them?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So I won't be able to give exact numbers about how much we pay, but we have a contract to process a certain amount of waste each year, to deliver a certain amount of waste per year. And so a put or pay contract is really common in this industry, because they have to run the facility.
Right, they need enough trash so they can burn, so it's worth their time. So
right.
Do we
and so
pay
I think it's 180,000 tons a year. But I got to verify that number. And we are always a little less than that.
So has the city ever talked to Maui about taking their trash? They're looking for a landfill, or have they ever talked to Kauai? Kauai just put out an RFP too.
Yeah, so I believe in the past there has been some conversations. Right now in ordinance, we're not allowed to accept waste from outside the island, so that would need to be changed. The other challenge is that the bond funding for the third boiler specifies directly in the bond covenants that it will only be used for refuse from this island. And so at the time, that is what the council put in, that if we're building this facility, and taxpayers on Oahu are paying for it, it should only burn refuse from this island.
Well, if we give them the ASR, the 24,000, that should help out. So,
yes, that will help out. Yep.
Yes, so there's trash we could be giving them so that we don't have to pay them at the end of the year. Because I think the goal here is that we need to actually start to make money off our trash, and not just slightly, but a lot. There are a lot of technologies out there that really produce close to 21 million a year for cities our size. So my question is, have you talked to companies that already do the conversion of ash and sludge into the molecular parts so that we don't need the landfill?
Yeah, so we have. We've had presentations by lots of folks with different technologies, and so far we haven't pursued gotten to the proposal stage yet, where we would need to sign a contract, usually a long-term contract, 20 to 30 years, because they're going to construct a facility and want capital recovery and be guaranteed a certain volume, just like H-Power. Right now, we're still sort of deciding what the future is of H-Power, and then that will dictate what we do in terms of ash recycling and other components of the recycling program.
Yeah, so council members, I did meet with a company, Carbentura, and they actually break it down into graphite. They create sludge back into water, actual potable water that we could use again. And I think that at this point, we need to already discuss what RFPs we need to get out there so we don't need to cite another landfill. We have no options left. And part of what Carbentura does is actually mine the landfill. And we've never even gotten to that point of talking about reclaiming all of the resources that are inside the two landfills, which are in my district, being able to take them out of the landfill, sell them, use them, right? Make them into graphite, water, and then basically make money off of it and have the land back. So I know that we kind of hover around the 101 discussions about landfills, but in order for us to really prepare for the future, we have to have those discussions. I thank you and, of course, your department for meeting with me in Hongmiaoling, which is a province that actually does no landfills anymore. And I think you guys got the presentation that I shared with you. Were you able to follow up with them to ask about anything that we could do to help pursue our goal towards no landfills?
No, we haven't been in touch directly with the folks from China, but we are pursuing the same things in our planning process.
Yeah, and I do thank you for, the Kapolei Convenience Center definitely is convenient, but the Waianae one is still not convenient. And I know we go through our struggles there. We're grateful for the cameras that went up. We're grateful for the compactor, but it's still a pretty small, little tiny site. If we were to mine the landfill behind the convenience center, we would have land back. We would have land that we could use, that we could expand into, but right now we can't use any of that land and probably for another 100 years. So it would be great for my community to know that we have a plan of one, no more landfills so that we can actually get to the point where we're not arguing with the legislature and we're not having a fight with Kailua. We're not really going through any of that because the technology is there. I do think that with the information that's out there, we could get there. So thank you, Director, so much for this presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other questions? I had a couple quick ones. And kind of stemming off of that conversation, because I think Councilmember Tupolo raises some really good points. And I think one of the things we're trying to figure out as a team is, and maybe this would be an opportunity if you have any insight, Dr. Babcock, when we're looking at the different, technology, meeting with different organizations. I think they're all at different phases in their ideas, and is there any particular things that we should be looking for evaluating when assessing whether a particular technology is appropriate or feasible, if that makes sense? Because I think that's kind of where our team's been at recently was filtering through, and it's like there's a lot of really great ideas out there, and then it's like, how do we assess like, oh, this is actually a legit pathway versus we may want to wait and give this one a little more time to flesh itself out?
Yeah, thanks for that question. First, I just wanted to say that there are three really big components of the waste stream that the city that we have to deal with. One, of course, is our municipal solid waste. We collect from single-family residents. Private companies collect from multifamily residents, which is a lot, and that's all. And all the hotels and restaurants and businesses and all the businesses are all collected commercially. They all come to us. So that's the municipal solid waste stream. Then there's the construction and demolition waste stream. And so the MSW is about 1 million tons per year. The C&D waste varies by year. So this is whenever a building is taken down. It's also asphalt. It's all kinds of other materials. And you think about it, when a building comes down, there's treated lumber, there's glass, there's plastic, there's rubber, all kinds of different materials. That currently all goes to C&D. It goes to PVT landfill. We do not accept it anywhere in our system. But again, that is going to close in the relatively near future, well within our 30-year planning horizon. So we do have to consider what we will do with that material and whether what portion of that can be recovered, but it's not 100%. As far as we know, we've never seen that. The other part is debris management. So we do have a debris management contract, and ENV holds that contract for the whole city, for all the departments. This is for if there's a hurricane or a tsunami and there become large quantities of material that needs to be disposed of. The contract really is about collection and staging and stockpiling of these materials. And the numbers are kind of scary. Basically, you can take our whole waste stream. So a big hurricane results in about 4 million tons of rubbish that needs to be. So it's about 4 years of our entire waste stream all happens, in one day. We wouldn't collect it all in one day, but everybody would be working to try and collect these things. So it is a really important part, though, of all of our evaluation of what we would do with that material. And certainly, we would still have the rest of the waste stream, so we can't take it to H-Power. It's already at capacity. We're already running it to process the MSW. So, but anyway, this and new technologies that do different things would also have the same challenge with being able to process this additional materials. So anyway, but we are evaluating all kinds of new technologies. Some of them have been evaluated before. Carbotura, we've met with them multiple times. We've met with the folks who do plasma arc technology. We've met with folks that do what's called gasification, pyrolysis and gasification. There's also the Carbotura it's a microwave technology. So very high strength microwaves, and they make things into elements, but the elements don't go away. So the question is whether they're made into things that have some value that could be exported. So it'd be a lot of graphite that would need to be sold somewhere. Presumably it doesn't stay here. And other materials, slag. The metal all doesn't disappear. It has to be something somewhere. And the glass, it all comes down to the elemental materials. But so we are looking at those things, and I can say that one of the criteria. So it's very similar to what we do with wastewater. So we evaluate new technologies with wastewater, and we selected a new technology for Sand Island for phase 1 and phase 2. And what we do is we go all around the world and we look at facilities that are the type that we're considering that will fit there, they meet all the requirements, and then we look at them and we talk to the operators. But we also set certain criteria. And some of the criteria usually are that there has to be existing facilities that we can go visit that have been in operation for at least 5 years and that have the same kind of capacity that we're looking for. Because some technologies are more in the emerging technology phase, where they might be done in a laboratory on a bench, or they might be done in a pilot facility, or they might even been done in a full-scale facility. But usually the full-scale facility would be something that processes maybe 1 to 10 tons per day. So for many of the technologies, the emerging technologies, there are no 2,000 ton per day facilities. There are no 1,000 ton per day facilities in operation to visit. So that does pose a pretty big challenge, because normally the way we select technologies is that we want to see things that are proven, because there's usually a big investment, both of money and of contractual commitment. So we sign a contract, generally someone's agreeing to do something for us for 20 to 30 years. And the challenge is that we have the waste stream keeps coming. If the process doesn't work, or it works for a while and it fails, or it burns up, we still have 2,000 tons per day of material that we need to process. And so, like a lot of engineering things, we do innovative processes very carefully. We usually like to pilot them and have them operate, for a time period, and then scale them up. So that is what we're looking into, and that is what we do with wastewater too. We selected a really innovative new technology. We pilot tested it for a year, and now we're confident that it's going to work at Sand Island. So we're scaling it up. So those are some of the things that we consider. I think addressing your question, Chair Wire, is how do we decide, what is good and what's not? And to me, we were questioning the pyrolysis gasification facility, and there's a company that's proposed that to us. Multiple companies have proposed that to us, but one of them has an operating facility, same size as H-Power, in Toronto, Canada. So I went and looked at it, and it works. It's viable. So hopefully they will submit, a proposal when we get to that point. The other technologies, we'll see what happens. There are some possibilities. We do have a little bit of time where we could perhaps pilot something and show that it actually works here. The technology called plasma arc technology was piloted here, and it operated for a few years, and so we've seen that. It was very small. It could process 5-gallon containers of material at a time, that technology hasn't reached much larger of a capacity, yet to this day, and that was quite a few years ago. So the challenge is to find something that will be a long-term solution that's innovative, meets our needs, and that's going to work, right? Because we do need it to work, and we need guarantees, because if something doesn't work, they can default on their contract and declare bankruptcy and leave, and then we wouldn't have a way to we wouldn't have landfill space to bury all our trash. So we do need to be able to process it and reduce its volume by 90 to 95%, like we do today. Okay,
I appreciate that, Dr. Babcock. I know we're coming up on Parks, I believe, is at 2:30, yeah? Okay. Last question I had then, not seeing any other questions from the committee. So I'm seeing confident just from the discussion that the recyclables go through our thing, go somewhere to be recycled, quote unquote. I think what always comes up in the community is like, oh, where does it actually go? And they always like push back on that. And so I just wondered if there's any clarity either on how the recycling process overall just works in general. Like, I'm sure there's a benefit to having these products go somewhere and be used for something, or if there's even more that you could share about what actually happens to everything in the blue bin.
Yeah, thanks. Unfortunately, I can't give you any more information right now. We'd have to check with the vendor. But basically at that point, they're on the commodity market, and so they have some value associated with, for resale, and the vendor would be always, looking at that market and trying to find the best place to ship it to get the best price. And unfortunately, we leave that all up to them. We pay them the tipping fee, and then they do the recycling, and that's all part of their economic schedule, how much the tip fee is versus how much they get in revenue. And those markets do change all the time. Metals and glass and all that stuff is changing all the time. So they have to have some flexibility, on their side. Yeah.
That's helpful. So in other words, you recycle your plastic bottle or your can doesn't mean it gets taken somewhere and then turned into a new plastic bottle or can, but it is used for something versus just ending up as ash in the landfill.
Yeah, that's correct. I would say there's a good chance that it's being made into a new product somewhere.
Okay,
Yep.
appreciate that. See no other questions from the committee. I wanted to thank everyone for attending and participating in today's meeting. There being no further business, we'll go ahead and adjourn. Mahalo.